Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Canyon. Welcome back to it's a quick view, but it's not. It's an unconventional formatting. It's too late in the day. It's too hot outside. We're going to intersperse in some B-roll. We're going to quick review. We're going to quick review in a sense. Okay, the RZXYLRC, basically offset Capra, right? These guys right here. We've got offset front. We've got standard rear, nice truss in them. They are alloy. Are they cast? Almost certainly. They are $105.99 on Amazon, which nowadays, in nowadays prices, for a pair of axles with internals, that's not too bad at all. That's not too bad at all. As they are Capra clones, they are effectively clones. They will fit all of the Capra parts. Not only that, they have proven to have cross compatibility with other aftermarket Capra parts. For instance, these portal boxes are identical to the included portal boxes, but these are brass. I replaced them with brass portal boxes, and then these are different brass weights that didn't come with these portal boxes, and those brass portal weights bolt together. This is a common, in other corners of this hobby, we see this frequently as a problem, where Resixel doesn't work with Benedict Harry or AMK or whatever. Things don't go together, which is what gives us the almost certain feeling that it's not just all coming out of the same factory and having different names slapped on it. That is especially relevant right here, right now, right here, right now, because we are talking about the Resixel, which are linked in the description below via Amazon. There are too many different types of offset Capra axles on the internet. Like, I don't know. If you have a set of offset Capra axles and you have had different problems or different successes, I don't know. They could well be a different axle, right? But what we're talking about is $106 for two complete axles with internals. And they're Capra and they're offset, which gives us the nice straight drive line going into the gearbox and the ability to ride BTA. I love this BTA configuration. It's great. The axles themselves, they've been in the Canyon for about 2 weeks. And in that 2 weeks, they've been on this gentleman, on Wolverine, built out of an old Integy AX10 Scorpion cage. They've been on him. He was built on these axles. These axles were purchased specifically to pair with this cage to make this build. That said, they have more wheel time on them than something of this relative age would ordinarily have. So we have already had parts failures, and we've already had statistical successes. The behind the axle servo mount, you can do this like a typical Capra. It uses the exact same two bolts where you put a regular servo and axle mount. That would not, it might fit on this cage. I wanted the behind the axle, oh, see the zip tie? Doop. Right when the shock bottom's out. Doop. So you have those options. You can run BTA or you can run the conventional on the top. It uses screws with bushings inside instead of shouldered pins, which is preferable to some, not to others. The behind the axle bracket is an extra $20. So you've already spent an extra $20. Okay, I'm just going to put that out there. It does not come with a bracket. You can get an on the servo bracket for about $10 if you want to save some money. I like this one. I'm running a full height, and I'm just using two little spacers. At full droop, yeah, there's a little bit down, but now we're up above the links. Half height is going to fit a lot better, but full heights are more robust, they're cheaper, they're more powerful. Did I mention that they're cheaper? And you can get away with running a full height on here, no problem. If I put a little bit bigger of a spacer and then put a spacer so that it doesn't have this extreme angle on there, then you'd be fine. Like structurally, they appear to be great. All the parts went together well. The portal gears look nice. I have changed the front portal gears from the 1223s to 1322s, which is that roughly 10%, and then paired with the 12% that's in the Stealth X, that gets me to around the 21% that I like to be at. I have not had to deal with the gears in the axles. They are machined of some sort or kind. They are not sintered. They are on spools. And they don't have a ton of lash to them. I didn't have to reshim them. They appeared to go together quite nicely. There are some real bonuses to these axles. They use the exact same third member style of any Capra axle. But if we can get the camera down here, yes. See the 4 screws? Let me point. See the 4 screws? There are, I think, 4 or 5 mounting positions for your rear upper link at the axle side. You can pull them all the way down, or there's another hole above that one. You can go even higher. But I got a link separation that was about where I wanted it to be. So that's just thoughtful. Link riser built into the axle, excellent. You need a lock nut on this side. You don't need a lock nut on that side. The screw lengths are kind of specific in the front, not as much in the rear. I honestly, I like that on the tabs on the double shear, they're not threaded. They're just pass-through. So you do need lock nuts to hold them on. But then that means it's never going to strip out. And you need a lock nut now instead of a lock nut just in the future. Now, they are not perfect because they are $105.99. There's little stuff. Like this is the included tie rod. It's like a little moustache. That moustache still hits the front of the pumpkin. So you just replace it with any Capra sized rod and it doesn't come close. And we get these. Did I mention steering angle? Yeah, it's gotta be close to 50 degrees. These things throw. This would hit. So you're going to have to replace that. That is, I don't consider that to be explicitly a huge issue. I want to say a deluxe titanium one is about $10. You can get away with most any offset link. What I would call a double bend. So like, this is a double bend for like AR-34. So like a 10-2 axle. Now, if you put that guy up there, he's about maybe 15 millimeters shorter overall. If you use big, long JADO ends from Traxxas, you can get away with this. And it will clear. Whatever you use, you just want to put something on there that's going to clear the pumpkin. It is a shame that this one doesn't. See, that's the amount of length differential we're talking. It's a shame that it doesn't clear the pumpkin, but it hits the pumpkin. So you're going to have to replace that. But that's not the real big one. The real big one is the stub axles. The stub axles that you've been seeing this whole time during this video are not the stub axles that came with the axles. These, here's one. This is one of the stub axles that came with the axles. Would you please focus? Thank you. You see the amount of wear down there? That is generally an indication that at some point the bearing wasn't moving and the axle was rotating inside the bearing. And you might say, well, why would that happen? I'm trying to find the worst offender. And that would happen because I'm guessing they just weren't hard. Oh, look at the bend in the end of that. Look at it's bent that way, and it's bent that way. Almost all of them are bent where it reduces. They're bent at the shoulder, and almost all of them are bent at the pin. Most of them have some degree of wear on them, like the shininess, because they had to be knocked apart with a hammer because they're all bent. I don't know if it was poor manufacturing, poor tolerance. I don't know what it was. But they're all in bad shape. Luckily, there's someone out there to save us. Let's see. Oh yeah, this one's got a good. Look at the banana of the end of that. Oh no! Also, and this isn't even the one that's the worst at the back, but look at that hole. Here we go. Look at that hole at the back. That's not a circle anymore. It's like an oval. Look at the wear rings from the bearings. Because what happens is when these bent, now the bearings are not in line with each other anymore. So the bearings will stop turning and then these are just scraping their way through. They are the true Achilles heel of the axle. Even if the axles, the universals in the front and the axles that are inside the housing in the back, even if those are suffering from the same lack of hardness, it's not really going to translate to the ground and or your wallet because portal gears, right? The stuff down here that the wheel is attached to is what's going to fail. Those probably aren't going to fail. So, that said, what you're looking at here, these are AMK. They're about 25 bucks. An AMK for 25 bucks will give you this thing. Is it that? Is it that? Is it that? You know what? I have not been having problems with focusing like this until very recently. Pardon? All right, let's see now. Was it that? Maybe. No, I don't think so. So, these are AMK. These are 5mm all the way, just solid. No reduction. Beefy. Hardened. Like 25 bucks. 25 bucks and they come with new pins, hexes, the thing. So now we're talking $105.99 for the axles. This is $106. We're talking, it's going to be 10 bucks to replace this. It's going to be 20 bucks for the bracket. So that's 30 bucks and then another 25, so 55. You're talking about 165 for a pair of axles. Are there other options that beat that 165 all in? I don't know. I'm not counting the portal gears. The portal gears are my own thing. You know, there's SSD portal gears in there. I could have done it via a ring as well. I was like, we have the option. Let's do portal gears. So, are they Canyon certified? I don't know. I would say Canyon recommended, provided you know what you're getting into. It's like when I recommend the Amazon Dig Box at $29.99, there are chances that your top shaft is going to have schlop in it. And I know, imagine that if you will. There are chances that some of the parts aren't going to fit together right. There are chances that not all the hardware is going to match. This is the price you pay to get the price you pay. These are $105.99 because they cut some corners. Some of the parts aren't as good as the other parts. I've had no issues with the universals. I've had no issues with anything. They are, I mean, could we argue about the smoothness? And I mean, operationally, they're great. And they work with other cheap Amazon parts. And again, I feel at this juncture I need to reiterate, if you have another offset Capra no-name alloy housing axle that looks kind of like this one, but isn't the one that's $105.99 on Amazon US, there's every chance that it's not the same axle. I can't speak to the integrity of those axles. As with everything else from Amazon, if you buy a gearbox, if you buy an axle, if you buy any part that is composed of multiple pieces, what do? You take it apart. You take all the hardware out, you throw the hardware away, you grease all of the gears, you thread lock all of the new screws, and you put it back together. Think of it as a kit with a whole bunch more steps. Because again, that is the price you pay for the price you pay. Because a super shafty axle housing just one housing, just one of these, will cost more than both of these axles with all the internals. So is this the best axle in the world? No. Has it proven to be reasonably robust aside from these? Oh, yes. Thank you for reminding me. There was something else I needed to point out. I kept noticing while driving these, every time we would take it out, a wheel nut would come loose and a wheel would try to fall off. Now I realize there's going to be some wiggle here. But this is not a lock nut. This is just a flanged 4mm nut. And if we thread that on about to there, and we go like this and we pray for focus. Can you see the threads moving with it, moving more than the nut is moving? It's all undersized, like, and even if we take a lock nut, we can go, there's a little bit of resistance, but there's not really any resistance. So if you buy these axles, basically order the AMK beefy stubs at the same time. Now the beefy stubs do use the big Vanquish size, takes an 8mm wrench, 5mm lock nuts. But in this case, that is an exchange that I am absolutely willing to make, because this axle is going to be so much stronger than this axle, because you see the shoulder, most of them bent at the shoulder, most of them bent back here. This guy is this big all the way down, so he should be plenty strong. There is one stronger option where it just has a flat and it, like, the hex actually bolts on, the wheel bolts to the axle, like clamps to the axle. But in terms of a threaded axle, I feel like this is probably about the strongest you're going to get. So I don't know if I can go so far as to say Canyon certified, because out of the box, these need work. These need work to be made good. I don't hold the cost of, like, say, the behind the axle bracket. I don't hold that stuff against the axle. A lot of axles don't come with all of the accessory parts to complete the axle. I'm at the same time, I'm just happy that things like brass portal boxes and brass portal box weights from other manufacturers fit both together and on the axle, because that is not always the case. They are pretty good at that. The stub axle is the big weakness here. The stub axle might be enough for some to go, I just don't want to mess with that. But also take into account, if your application is similar to this, your stubs are going to take some abuse, right? These are flush out on the face, and they are running 23mm. These are 18s, those are 23s. These are running 18s in the rear, 23s in the front. So it's pushing all the way back here. So that's just extra leverage. The hex is here, but all the load from the wheel is way out here. So there's a lot more force that this can generate. If we were just looking at, like, I think they're in here. Yeah. So this is a deep dish wheel, so that it's just running a little hex. So the starfish, the Patrick Star there, is right in the middle of the wheel. So we're just running a regular 9mm hex. This type of wheel will put a lot less load on the hex. So you could potentially save your 4mm hex, but I don't believe that the 4mm axles, I don't believe that they're actually 4mm. I think they're undersized. So I'm sticking with it, and I'm standing to it. If you are going to purchase these axles, you will have to. It is not optional to replace the stub axles. You just replace them. Do I wish they came with them? Yes. Are there other offset Capra axles that probably require less tinkering and tampering to get them to go? Yes, and I'm almost positive that they're going to be more expensive. The price point on these all in, like I said, with the stubs, with a replacement tie rod, with the BTA bracket, is about 160 bucks. I think you're getting something worth the money. These have been excellent. They are very quiet. There's no resistance in the axles. Paired with a Stealth X, you have a ton of gear reduction. And you can get something that will flex all day long. So, residual! Throw in a little AMK flavor. If you're running something typical in the center of that, if you're running something in the middle that looks something more like this, right, which would probably make more sense, take up a lot less space. AMK has got your back again. I'm not sponsored by AMK. I kind of wish I was, because AMK, if I can find it, on occasion on Amazon, you can get a pair of ring gears. That's an 827 and an 833. You could run that little tiny gearbox, which weighs like 45 grams. 827 in the front, 833 in the back. Have about that 20% underdrive, overdrive split, and you're done. You don't have to mess with the portal gears. You don't have to mess with any of it. So, Capra axles are nice. Everybody loves a Capra axle, don't they? Because you can adjust underdrive and overdrive here, here, and here. And who doesn't want more adjustments? The built-in link riser into the axle, great. Everything is double shear, front and rear. Didn't intend it to rhyme, but it does. Tie rods are double shear. It's all good. It's all good, except for these. I was only holding on to these long enough to do this. Right under the bench. It's a 5-gallon bucket. There they are. There we go. They're really bad. They're really, really bad. It is a shame, because the rest of the axle is solid and I have no complaints so far. Yeah. Oh, also, the hardware, it is just the common practice here. So this is all black oxide that's been replaced on here. What I do is I first remove the third member to add grease. And then once I put it back in, whatever screws I take out, I just replace with the same exact length, but in a graded black oxide fastener. That said, the fasteners that came on here, not bad. Better than most that I've seen. If you like to fly by the seat of your pants, and or you don't have a giant screw collection to replace screws with, you would probably really be okay with the included fasteners. I do it just as a manner of, we don't leave the screws. Aside from Amazon beadlocks, which usually get the screws that come with them, anything we buy on Amazon, whether it's a chassis, gearbox, axles, whatever, throw the hardware away, replace it with proper hardware of known provenance. Let's get one more. Yeah, Resixel. Pretty good, provided you know what you're getting into. Does that sound fair to everyone? $105.99, but not. I like to look at the price of things all inclusive. This pair of axles is about 160 bucks. That's how it is. But at that $160 point, there's nothing on the axle I need to change. They're ready to go. They will stay in service. This guy is this size. He's our above class 2 test vehicle, like class 3 size, 5 1/4s, 5 1/2s, 5.75s, 5.6s, 5.4s. Basically tires above 5 inches. This is the guy that tests them. And that means that he's going to get beat around. He's a knock-around guy. So the axles have to be able to withstand it, and they've genuinely been doing pretty great so far. So, take that as you will. I return you to your day, as was previously planned. Thank you for joining us here in the canyon, both inside and out. That's why we hold on to a little bit of B-roll. You can see a little bit of B-roll. We'll see you in the next one. We hope that between now and then you one and all do your very best. Have a good one, everybody. We will see you again here from the canyon. hopefully real soon. Look at this. We can still do the thing. It's like we're outside. The logo comes up and we drive out of frame. If there's enough room on the bench, there is. I'll see you next time.